Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devpool, and joining me, my host companion, WolverSej. Wolver?
Oh, Segerine?
Nah, you know, I think WolverSej is better. Because you leave people with it. We start with my name, and then we leave people with your name. I've been toying with this for literally 3 weeks. You don't want to see my notepad onto which is better for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. You don't. Because it's crazy.
I mean, now's the time, right, for us to talk about the over-the-top feast for the eyes, irreverent action comedy that is Borderlands, right? That's what we're talking about today.
God, I love him.
I
love him.
actually wanted to. I need to reveal something about the Borderlands movie that I have kind of kept to myself for the last 3 months because it was the truth.
Sejan saw the movie, is what he's about to tell us.
No, in matter of fact, I have not seen the movie, despite what I'm about to tell you, which is that when I first saw a poster for the movie 3 months ago, right?
Yep.
There was a QR code in the bottom that was designed in a way to look like obvious, but also like this is part of the picture, right? It was like, okay, well, I'm scanning that, right? Like this must be something ridiculous. And there was something there was like a note when you got really close and like fine print that was like scanned for secrets about the movie or like behind the scenes or special offers or things like that, right?
Okay.
So for the last 3 months, I have been steadily receiving texts from basically mostly Claptrap. Like that, the majority of them have come from the narrator of Claptrap, right? A few that have just been clearly just like marketing, just like, okay, movie's out tomorrow. Don't forget to go see it. Like, right? Like, we kind of lost the thread towards the end. But I spent the last 3 months of my life getting at least once a week, I mean, texts from Claptrap.
Cool.
and the reason that I haven't brought it up is because it essentially went nowhere, which I feel like has been the whole story of that movie from the moment it was like announced, is that it pretty much ended up going fucking nowhere.
All right, so here's the thing. First of all, I'm so mad that you made me hear that story that I no longer feel bad about the fact that during this recording, I'm enjoying a delicious Dr. Pepper creamy coconut. Oh, it's so good. Oh,
I hate you. I hate you so much.
I like pina coladas and Dr. Pepper, and with this, I can escape to both. I don't feel bad anymore, Sejan, because you made me hear tales of marketing with Sejan Sarowick.
It was so pointless. Like at some point they released a bunch of character posters and they
texted them all
slowly released them over the text. So that was and I was like, this is great, guys. This is the same shit I would have seen online otherwise. Thanks for this.
Well, I mean, the worst part about it, right? I'm so sorry to have like stuck in the knife and twisted it about the Dr. Pepper creamy coconut, because I have another knife in my other hand that I'm going to stick in and twist, and that's the fact that Sejan Sarowick, you failed the Borderlands movie. I don't know how else to say it other than matter of fact that you're the reason this $120 million movie barely made $10 million its opening weekend. They were counting on you to recruit a team to go to Pandora and unlock the vault, and you failed.
It's even worse than I thought, Dev. I added Borderlands as a contact that was scanned on February 25th, Sunday, February 25th.
That part does track because some movie, Madam Web, when I saw Madam Web, that was when I saw my first Borderlands trailer and was like, that looks pretty okay. Like, I'd see it. I'm not, of the two of us, I'm the smaller Borderlands fan. I'm really more of a Borderlands enthusiast, if we're going to be honest. But the movie, like the trailer, or I guess it was a teaser at that time, did catch my interest. I will admit that. And then, I don't know what movie we could have possibly gone to see with my mother, but I know that mom was there. Oh, it was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a Ghostbusters movie this year for the 40th anniversary of Ghostbusters, and somehow that wasn't part of the marketing at all. Oh man, sorry. I'm sweating and it feels like tears of disappointment. And the trailer happened, and Mom declared to the whole auditorium, "That looks like shit," and it weirdly broke the spell that Borderlands movie had cast over me.
I don't know if that movie ever had a spell over me. I like there's some visual stuff in it that looks very appealing. I think that it is going to be a movie that I am going to see and will find enjoyment in. I want to make that very
Oh
clear.
yeah. I
I don't think that movie deserved to make more than $10 million on its own, so it got exactly what I think that movie deserved.
it was just one of those situations where seeing the teaser and seeing what they had like pulled together for the squad made me very happy. Because there's so many characters that you could like take from Borderlands to make your team, and I feel
Yeah.
like they did a really good job picking the least offensive characters.
No, what it is they're the most connective characters in the stories. With the five that they've got in the for anybody that doesn't know, it's Roland, it's Lilith, it's
Moxie.
um no, it's not. Moxie's not part of the team. Tina,
Oh, it's
Krieg,
not. Well,
and Claptrap. Moxie is there. Moxie's in the movie, but she's not. But like,
but
by
she's part of the
picking those
marketing. I
five-
thought she was the sixth member of the squad, which seemed strange to me. But
no, these. I mean, maybe, but that's not the impression that I've gotten,
Okay.
and I've been getting texts about it for
you've been
months,
getting
Devin.
texts since February 26th.
So no, what they did is they pulled together these five characters that have served in the game as important narrative characters that allow them to touch any other character they want at this point. With Lilith and Roland, they can go after Brick, and they can go after Mordecai. Like with Tiny Tina, that gives them an in with Moxie and that whole side of the universe because she's got really close connections to her. Krieg has the whole thing with the Siren in the second game there, where he's like refines his brain, like, and there's like some stuff about it, like, is he her father? Like, there's some he might be Tiny Tina's father. I mean, like, there's all sorts of weird stuff with Krieg's backstory that they could explore that allow them to bring in other ones. All of them let you touch on Marcus. All of them let you touch on Scooter. Like, there's so many different ways in which these five specific characters interact with the rest of that world that they basically were just like, if we do this, then we can basically have them run into anybody in these 3.5, like 4, really, if you like 5 game, like there's so many different worlds that they could dive into, and like because of that, it feels, as a fan, it feels very manufactured in that way, because in the grand scheme of the Borderlands story, these five are a weird five to be together.
Yeah, yes. I mean, Roland and Lilith made sense. But Krieg was the 6th DLC character, right? Wasn't he eventually playable in the first game?
I believe he would. He not the first game, the second. He's definitely from the second, because the character that he's connected to the most is the Siren in that one, and it's freaking killing me that I can't think of her name right now. Hold on, but no, he was definitely the second one, and he was available as a DLC, and then in the third game he had another DLC that was associated with him where like you went into his brain, which is fucking wild. I'm trying to like.
It's so. I mean, it's just.
Yeah,
Maya is the Siren from the second game.
Maya, thank you, Maya. Yeah, yes, he's got some. Yeah, so there's some connections there, and she kind of like helps restore some of his sanity and stuff like that. It's really wild. So like, there is merit to why they did this. It's just that it is clearly a decision made with no real end game in sight, because like their stories don't all end in the same place. Their stories aren't all aimed or focused on the same goals. One of the beautiful things that I love about the Borderlands games is that they're a fucking mess when it comes to plot. Like, you don't have to pay attention to anything, or you can dive really deep into one story and just ignore the rest. There are straight up, like, there are some stories that you don't realize are stories until you play DLCs or sequels, and then you go back and see how they were like building stuff. There is some really intricate, complex storytelling in the Borderlands games, and for no reason. Like there doesn't have to be, because as I said, you can also ignore all of it and still have a good time with those games. So like the movie not leaning more into like a Pulp Fiction-y-esque, like a bunch of different plot lines
Characters
kind
all
of
coming
going on
together, yeah.
simultaneously, like feels a little kind of almost disingenuous to what I expect from that kind of story. That being said, like a focused story can be fun. I just don't understand why these five are the focus. Like it becomes really weirdly, it becomes hard for me to wrap my head around as somebody that's super invested in the franchise. If you're not invested in the franchise, I have no fucking clue what
Why
the
would you see
appeal
the
is to
movie?
going to this movie.
Why would you go see
Yeah.
the movie?
There's nothing on display in the previews. There's nothing that's been talked about or said about this movie in any way that implies to me that they're trying to bring in new fans. In fact, quite the opposite. It feels like all this is a big old promise of fan service. So like when a guy that is a big enough fan that I spent sight unseen $100 on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and to this day will defend that purchase because it ended up actually being one of my favorites of the franchise. Like I am on board for whatever nonsense they want to do, and even I'm not on board for this. So like I have no idea who this movie was supposed to please.
I mean,
Anyway, my bit of derailing our Deadpool Wolverine conversation for Borderlands is pretty much over at this point.
well, I appreciate it. I mean, it would have been weird and disingenuous not to even mention it. I mean, did we mention Harold and the Purple Crayon, which is set in Providence, but it was clearly not filmed in Providence? And
and has Zachary Levi as like an old Harold? Did I misunderstand that?
So I mean, Harold is a little boy, but then when he goes into his imagination, he's Zachary Levi. Because if you want a little kid being played by an adult, apparently there's one number in the Rolodex, and it's Zachary Levi. Levy? I don't know. I have no respect for him because he changed his name to what he changed his name to sound more Jewish to succeed in Hollywood. These are things he's actually said.
Yeah, there's been a few other things that he's
yeah, no, there's some other ones. But if you kind of want like the top of the podium, that feels like the one that wins the gold, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's just like, wow, like, do you just like not understand that everything you say is recorded?
Yeah. No. I mean, he said some pretty asshole stuff too when Shazam wasn't doing well about like other franchises at the time that were doing better and
yeah. oh, it's a family movie. I guess if you want to bring him to a movie that says fuck a bunch of times, you got that. But if you want a movie for your family, why wouldn't you bring him to go see Shazam 2, Furry of the Gourds?
Yeah, I don't know, but
that movie. Well, I mean, like, obviously derailing our Deadpool Wolverine conversation. We waited so long to talk about it that D23 happened as well, and like that also derails this conversation for me a little bit because I'm fucking sick of Disney. I feel so furious. I mean. It connects to the Shazam Furry of the Gourds in the fact of I'm never going to see a Rachel Zegler movie. I'm just not going to do it because before she was even famous, she was saying Zachary Leviathan-y things in the public about why people don't like movies and stuff. And I'm like, okay. Like, I just don't want to support her. I don't know why I said it like a question. No, I don't. I don't want to support her. Like, I hated Shazam. But I would have watched Shazam Furry of the Gourds if she were not in it. I'm not the biggest Hunger Game fan. I would have seen Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes if she was not in it. Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story, that one can go die in a gutter. I don't care about that at all, right? I unless he put the Flintstones in it. Oh my God. Like, what? There's a joke in the Clerks animated series about Spielberg knowing how to perfectly marry existing IPs with Flintstones list. I wish that joke had more truth to it. Because West Side Story set in Bedrock, oh, sign me the fuck up. The Crows and the Thalls going at it, oh, I'm already there. So I'm not interested in that. And then her fucking face as Snow White has been everywhere, and I'm tired. I'm tired of it. And being tired with Disney, believe it or not, is a central theme with my approach to talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. So,
I think it's a strong spine for the entire film. I don't think.
Yeah, no,
like,
I
think
just
they pretty much blatantly say that much in the movie.
yeah. So I guess I sent to our business channel the list of biggest news from San Diego Comic-Con 2024, because we're also going to talk about Comic-Con 2024. I didn't want to give it a huge focus, but the IMDb page about the biggest news from Comic-Con 2024 has 8 stories attached to it. So maybe the news wasn't that big from San Diego Comic-Con. But what was announced, first of all, brilliant or the dumbest fucking move ever to release Deadpool and Wolverine the same weekend as Comic-Con? This is an opinion question for Mr. Sarowick.
I mean, hard to argue with results. It's like, didn't it make like $700 million already, and like has been one of the more talked about? In fact, I would comfortably say the most talked about Marvel's movie in like a year and a half.
I guess No Way Home is the most talked about since No Way Home, and I think it's better. I'm gonna put that out there just like to start this conversation. Let's see. Deadpool Wolverine has made $96.8 million. Is that just this weekend? Yeah, to date, 455,837. 455,830. No, $455,837,382 as of Friday, August 9th. That's how much movie Deadpool and Wolverine has made, and I think that might just be domestic.
I'm pretty sure that's just domestic.
Yeah.
I might be mistaken about that, but anyway, yeah, it's making its money back.
Yeah.
Is the moral of the story.
You could tell that I don't know how to use Box Office Mojo because I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the table when that number is literally the largest number at the top of the page. I apologize for not understanding certain websites. No one would have known, but I need to own up to why that was so difficult for me to say. So I guess worldwide it's at $940,337,382. I like that both of them end with $382. That's cute. So yeah, it's this thing, and I guess you're right. It just feels like that was a weird move, right? Because all these people who are at Comic-Con, do they stop and go see the movie? Like, do you go to a Thursday premiere, or once the show floor closes, do you go and show the film?
If they're smart, somebody on the show floor is showing it. There's probably right, like there's probably some way to see it while you're there. But yeah, man, I mean, people like you're allowed to leave when you go to a conference.
Yes, I know that. Right? I do understand
lock that door on you.
I don't know. I always feel like I get weird looks for that. Like, we're here for the conference, and I'm like, no, but I'm also here for the city that the conference is taking place in.
So Forbes is saying that it's made $925 million in global receipts as it heads into its third weekend.
Okay. So that's why, I mean, I'm on the friggin' Box Office Mojo. That was probably recorded on Thursday, that article.
Yeah.
So they have at least the Friday numbers.
This was just updated at yesterday afternoon. So that was also not including whatever happened last night.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's one of those situations where, like, I guess it just seemed like such a weird thing. But then the one that this personal opinion, Devin Decker Styles, is saying is you release a movie, and I guess I'm not approaching this like Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe, but first impressions, right? You release a film that makes it seem like we recognize the mistakes that we have made, and going forward, we're going to try to fix them, right? We understand that the multiverse was a bit of a mistake. We understand that people are not interested in background characters or like doing a bunch of homework to watch a movie, right? We finally get that, right? And we've given Ryan Reynolds the soapbox and the microphone to announce that to our fandom. And then they pull out Robert Downey fucking Jr. is coming back to the MCU not as Tony Stark Iron Man, but as Doctor Doom. And everybody wanted to talk to me about that. Everybody wanted to know, Devin, how you feel about this? How you feel about this? And my answer is fucking betrayed. Like, I just felt so dirty. They had just released a film that made it feel like we are going to change. And then in the shadow of that film, making the money that it made, they're like, oh, but by the way, here's pandering and going back to the way things were.
But I think what that speaks to is more the nature of what Deadpool has always been as a movie franchise. I mean, is that it's always been this weird bastard child that they don't want to get rid of because it makes some of the most money, but at the same time they've never had any real control over or say on any of it, right? Like it's been a really tense relationship and a really interesting move to see them try and bring Deadpool and by some extension the X-Men into the MCU, right? And I mean this purely from a business standpoint because until this movie we hadn't seen them really do it, right?
Beast was Beast was shown, and a binary Maria Rambeau.
Yeah,
at
and
the
and
end
we
of
got,
the Marvels, a film that I don't think anybody saw. I have to be honest.
We also got Professor X in
Multiverse of Madness.
In Multiverse Madness and stuff, right? Like they've dipped their toe, but this was the first. But that's what I mean, right? Is like they've kind of had this tenuous relationship with that side of the universe and what's going on over there, and trying to figure out how to follow their method of, like, I'm trying to think of like the best way to put this. Like they want to have their cake and eat it too, clearly, right? Like that's how business works, is they always want to try and figure out how to have their cake and eat it too. So they want to bring in all of that fan base, all of that money, all of that business, all of that, they want to bring that all over to this, but at the same time they want to be able to start to have a little bit more say in what is done about it. And I just think that what you're speaking to is the fact that they clearly did not have as much control over this movie as one would think, with them putting Marvel at the front of it now, right? And I think that is a really cool sign for me, is that like they clearly just kind of let this movie be what it was. They did that thing that we've always wanted them to do and let the people that really wanted to make this movie just make this movie. And that's awesome. To the whole like Robert Downey stuff and all of that, as somebody that has consistently talked about the idea that I want to start watching these movies just as their own films, what the fuck do I care that they cast an actor that I've seen in other movies?
Because I don't...
Am I supposed to believe a guy that's about to win an Emmy for a show in which he plays 8 different characters? It can't possibly play 2 characters in the MCU, and there's even fucking precedent for it. Fucking in his own movie, Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch plays the big bad CGI villain at the end of the movie, as well as Doctor Strange. We didn't seem to have a problem with that.
Right. It's more the fact that if he were completely new, right? If they're like, we're making a Fantastic Four movie, and look who's playing Doctor Doom in it, that would be different. But it feels like Doom is stepping in for Kang because of the whole Jonathan Majors thing, and that happened there. Let's bring in somebody else who, tenuous relationship with the law, but has done his time, right? I mean, people brought it up, and it's a fact. It's just a fact of what matters.
Right, but the thing being is that we have heard, like, we hope, genuine remorse, regret, and growth from Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah,
like, which we've literally watched him go through that with the Avengers. Like it brings this in. You also, it's not just like some actor. Like the other thing about bringing in Robert Downey Jr. is you're bringing in somebody that understands how this machine works.
Right, and I understand that, but there's another one of my issues, is that we're still going to be using the same machine. Deadpool Wolverine made it feel like it's going to be a new machine, and I knew that wasn't going to happen.
You and I maybe differed on how we received this movie, because what Deadpool Wolverine felt like to me was an end game, a coda, an ending for the Fox universe. It was. I mean,
that's what it was.
Ryan Reynolds giving that universe its end game, finishing story, and the idea being, we're not going to get to make movies like this anymore. This movie felt like the last time we were going to get to see a movie like this. And for me, that was enhanced by the idea that at the same time we were watching Comic-Con and Disney was just trucking. They have won. Disney has won this battle. They are going to be the House of Marvel going forward. There are not going to be Fox movies. Sony is probably done now too. Once they get they're literally calling the next the next Venom movie The Last Dance, right? Isn't that the subtitle on it? Like
that is a subtitle.
Like they are going
yes.
out of their way to be like, we're done with this. We don't even know if we're going to release Craven. Like there's
How
all of this
could you
shit
not
going on
release
where Sony's
Craven?
going
You
under.
released fucking Morbius and Madam Web. Give the people what they want. Give us Craven.
But now they've seen what you can do with just not putting a movie out. Now that we've seen what WB has been able to do in order to keep itself afloat for a couple of years by just killing finished projects, Sony might be sniffing around that as a possibility, right?
Do you want to make sure you throw that brick in the glass house of Warner Brothers as it's revealed that like they were lying about where they were and are like billions in the hole?
Yeah, well, right, and everybody else has kind of dropped the fucking ball, and Disney has also been dropping the ball. Let's not act like that's not true. But in a way that only Disney can, they're too big to fail. They're gonna figure this out. They're gonna keep throwing this pasta at the wall till it sticks, and so like. While you felt like betrayed because you felt like Deadpool Wolverine was promising you something new, to me, all Deadpool Wolverine felt like the entire time was an apology because we'll never get anything weird again. I mean, it's all going to be part of this machine that Disney now does going forward. And in that regard, I really appreciated that movie. Like that movie, like Deadpool Wolverine hit me so well in so many different ways. Not only was it funny, not only was it a good like Deadpool movie, it was a fantastic X-Men movie, like a wild ass X-Men movie. And then like on top of that, it also hit me in all of those places as like the kid that grew up watching Wesley Snipes' Blade. The guy that sat here and talked about Jennifer Garner's Elektra, as we talked about, we joked about the fact that Chris Evans has played multiple people in the Marvel universe now, and like oh my god, and like all of that just felt like so good and so sad, but like laugh through the funeral type thing was kind of what it felt like the whole time.
Yeah, it was Rob Schneider singing Ave Maria and us being able to control ourselves.
Yeah.
Who is the optimist and who is the pessimist in this situation? Where I watch Deadpool Wolverine and think finally Disney gets what they should be doing to make their films enjoyable. And you watch it like, fuck, man. This is Disney saying you get one more turn to play with my toys and then we're never seeing each other again. Like...
I mean, they say literally spoilers for Deadpool.
Yeah, spoilers. I mean,
right? This is not even, and this isn't even like a major spoiler because there's a turnabout on it. But there is a moment literally at the end of this movie where Wade Wilson will turn to Logan and says to him, "Do you think we'll ever do this again? And do you think we'll ever hang out or go?" And I forget exactly what the setup is, but Logan looks him dead in the eye and is just like, "Probably not," and then walks off. And it's just like, shit, man. That moment, I was just like. Man, yeah,
but then they still have the party at the end. They try to give you the happy ending anyway, where him and Laura are at Al and Deadpool's house. Deadpool Wade, his name is Wade or Wilson. I guess you're right. At the end of the day, you're right. I misinterpreted this film, and I think I just let First of all, right, we had referenced that a friend of mine said that it's got a 4 in the story department, but an 11 in the entertainment department. I agree with the entertainment. This movie, Deadpool Wolverine, is one of the most entertaining films that I have seen in years.
Oh, it was one of those. My face hurt from smiling so much when I left type movies, right? Like every now and then I go and see a movie that makes me just happy the entire time, and I literally like can feel it in my cheeks for like a day afterwards. And it was definitely one of those for me. Like and being called out on it too, right? Because like left and right, it's just like, this one's for you, nerd, and I'm like, it is for me.
Yeah. My after movie was thrown off a little bit because someone in the theater, I'm like, I know this guy. I recognize him. And then it was one of the people from like the Hasbro Post live streams was like sitting in front of us the whole movie. And that kind of derailed me a little bit. Like I kept my composure. I didn't do anything crazy, but it was one of those like reminders of like, oh, right, we're in the same state as Hasbro. And like, was he watching for like research? Like, what characters are we going to do from this? Like, my mind got to jump in there. In the moment, though, I was smiling just as hard as you. When we've said spoilers, right? So we can actually talk about who Chris Evans plays. When he showed up, I whispered to Dale, he better be the fucking Human Torch. And she said, oh, you're right. If not, we're leaving. Like, it was such a moment where, like, they did such a good job of making you think he might be Cap. And it would have been fine if he was Cap, but the fact that he wasn't and that he was Johnny Storm. And, I mean, this show, as much as you say that, like, this is for you, nerd, specifically all of the Marvel that we have focused on in the Say Report proper was the type of shit that they covered in this movie.
Exactly.
Right? And it felt, and also the color scheme is red and yellow. The Say Report's red and yellow. Like, it was hard to be like, man, it feels like they were keyed into exactly what Sejan and I wanted this movie to be. And then to discuss it with people and realize it was keyed into what everybody wanted this movie to be. And then for what they were displaying at Comic-Con to be the direct opposite of what this movie was.
Yeah.
It fucking was just like, mother, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to go back to the fucking sacred timeline. I want to live a little bit longer in the Deadpool Wolverine of it all. A movie that will start with the complete dance number from Bye 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 as he uses, the
true team up, the true Wolverine team up, where he uses Wolverine's adamantium corpse.
As like, and it's so great. I mean, the most ridiculous thing about that whole thing is that nobody would have come and harvested Wolverine's body for the adamantium, right? that it was able to sit there long enough to become a skeleton. Totally bullshit.
One of the things that this movie loves to just completely throw out the fucking window is time.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
The times at which things happen or didn't happen or will happen are all over the fucking place in the story. And this might get kind of to what your friend was talking about in the regards of like following the plot. There is like if you're not, there is basically one thing to follow, and that's in this whole movie, and that's Wade. If you're not following Wade and you're trying to follow all of the events around Wade, things are all over the fucking place. Example being Logan's corpse. Remember that Logan is supposed to take place in a far-flung future with a decimated population. Nobody's come to look for Logan's corpse because there ain't nobody to go looking for Logan's corpse anymore. So like the idea being that in his timeline, Logan dies, but supposedly Logan dies in the far future.
I mean,
from
2029.
When Deadpool should actually be happening.
So it's 2029 that Logan takes place, just because I'm like, I one of the things I liked about it is I'm like, was it 2024 that the whole Logan death occurred, or like how far out was it? Like, did they bless themselves by like, we're finally making this movie and it's that? But no, time has clearly passed from it. The 2029 of it all is thrown away. But even if it was 2029 that he went to...
2029 and then some, because his body then has to decompose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. The adamantium
nothing.
Poison could have hastened the decomposition of the body. But you're right. But also, Wade Wilson has a time machine.
No, right. That's what I mean. It's like you just kind of have to just assume that things that are happening outside of Wade's own personal timeline are never guaranteed to be in any specific chronological order.
Right.
Like I couldn't even tell you at what point in history the time what's the
time
big
variance
box called?
Authority,
the time scraper. The box,
the time
the
ripper,
literal,
the ripper,
time ripper,
the MacGuffin.
Thank you. Yeah. I couldn't tell you where in time the subway station and the time ripper are supposed to be.
That's a good point. I mean, I would imagine it's like 5 years on from 2029 based on the fact that he decomposed and how storytelling works. But that's, I don't know. It's because, well, here's the thing. They try to focus it, and honestly, like the writers of Deadpool Wolverine, if they are listening to me say this right now, are probably laughing at me. Because I'm going to base it on March 14th, 2018, being the time that he tries to join the Avengers on the sacred timeline and gets brushed off by Happy Hogan. Lovely fucking John Favreau, is that his
Favreau.
name?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yep.
really did not trust myself to say his name correctly. Lovely John Favreau cameo there as Happy. Fantastic. And
Genuinely sweet scene.
yeah, like really,
Like,
really good. Like,
like, yeah, yeah.
oh no, we're standing up? Yeah, this is the part where we stand up. See, that's the problem. You need to be an Avenger, but we don't do it because we need it. We do it because they need us.
Yeah.
Like that, like it was like a really, I mean, not really how I feel about the Avengers in the MCU, because I think that, unfortunately, being based primarily on the Ultimates forms of those characters and the fact that, you know, it's a little snarky, the MCU. The Avengers are less altruistic than Happy represented them. And just in the movies, like the infighting or some of the things that they do, the fact that they
No,
don't
but this
seem...
is a drum. But this is a drum that they've beaten
Yeah,
before. Think
right.
back to like who, you know, if you don't know who you are in the suit, like with Tony talking to Peter in Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole conversation about like I'm taking your toys away because you don't understand what it means to be this hero. Is that whole movie, right?
Right, but then I guess what I'm saying is that always rings a little hollow to me, because
Oh yeah,
sometimes
no,
I
no,
question if Iron Man knows what it means to be a hero.
sure.
Like it's but it's something that, like, that's a duality of Marvel Man that you have to deal with when you watch these films, right? Like, just without a doubt, that's what we have to do. But, you know, setting it also before the events of Infinity War, so like they wouldn't need Wade, right? Like if he showed up to that universe while half the universe was gone, things would be different. And then they jump from March 14th, 2018 on the Sacred Timeline, 6 years in the 10005 timeline, which is the Fox Earth. So then it's like, oh, it's 2024 there. But then Wolverine died, so your universe is going to end. And like, on some level, it would make sense if the guy went back to before Wolverine died to hasten the destruction of the universe. Like, I don't know. You're not supposed to care about time. Sejin is right about that. And it was something that I didn't really recognize until Sejin just said it.
No, and I think that that's a large part of where somebody might get caught up on what's happening in this movie, because there is all this stuff about how if this is where this person is supposed to be, and Wade is somehow supposed to be important in the Sacred Timeline eventually, which is an interesting like kind of little Easter egg that they like throw in there, right? Like foreshadowing for something that'll probably never come to be, right?
Well,
But
I mean, it's literally
there's just all of
Loki's
this
death
stuff about,
scene
like...
from Thor: The Dark World with
Right.
Ryan Reynolds' face put in there, which is lovely. I love it.
There's
Sorry.
like there's all of this stuff that you're just supposed to, and I think that what it comes down to for me is there is this like meta bit going on the whole time about the tension between specifically the Fox timeline, but other timelines versus the Disney timeline. The idea being that there are these other things out there that are kind of going against the grain, and Disney is coming in to kind of put a stop to it, right? And they're going to go back and they're going to kind of, and the worry is, are they going to erase that stuff in a way that like we won't have access to it because they want theirs to be the one true, right? I think that like it all becomes part of this meta joke about how you kind of can't let time and stuff like that matter if you want the kind of movies that you're bitching Disney won't make. You have to be okay with the fact that sometimes shit's going to be happening in one movie that doesn't quite jive in another movie if you want this kind of stuff to work. And what they're proving is that people are okay with that. Deadpool Wolverine succeeds in proving that you can trust your audience to come along for the ride if they want to be there. We've gotten so caught up in the MCU of it all, and not just the MCU. I had this conversation about Star Trek because the new Star Trek movie with Michelle Yeoh that's coming out. I had a friend who's not really into Star Trek, and she was like watching it. She's like, "What is this whole? This doesn't look like Star Trek to me." And I had to get into a whole conversation about how it has to be taking place in the mirror universe version of that character, because who Michelle Yeoh played when she was on, I believe it was Enterprise. Like she played like a very like a very different version of that character that had met a mirror universe version, and like got into this whole thing about like there's all of this stuff you need to understand about why why this whole other movie would exist and what it means with what they can and can't do in that movie, and it just immediately turned them off. They were just like, okay, I'm not that interested in this. It looked cool, and now that I know that there's a bunch of this bullshit, I'm done. Right? Like people just like it gets too convoluted and too stupid. People are willing to just be like, yeah, okay, he goes and he beats up Wolverine's dead corpse. Got it. Cool. I love this. This is a funny bit for me. Like,
Yeah.
okay, man. Like you just kind of have to you have to kind of let your mind go in that way, and then instantly the story actually makes perfect sense. Wade needs a Wolverine. He goes and he finds one. Turns out that Wolverine's a bit of a fucking bust, so he has to get him up to snuff by the end of the movie. That's the whole movie. And like it's a fantastic buddy comedy in that way. And
It is.
like it's a fun time. There's dumb jokes. There's some really cool effects of moments and cool concepts. And you come out of it just having a good time at the
Yeah,
movies. And like that's what Disney I don't think is ever going to be able to truly get their hands on with these movies going forward. If they keep getting caught up in this whole we need to make them all fit into this one concept story, then we're screwed. We're just never going to enjoy ourselves.
which is
To
so
the Robert Downey
interesting.
Jr. conversation,
Yeah.
we have to be okay with them doing shit like, okay, if these are different movies, then that means that any actor in the world is up for grabs, including the guy that we like working with that knows how to make these movies. So like there's some give and take that's going to happen both from Disney as the creatives and us as the audience. We're going to otherwise these movies are going to slowly just stop getting made, which is the bigger fear for me. Which like we shouldn't be living in fear of Disney
Honestly,
to
I
let
think I'd
them
be okay
their
with it on
entertainment
some
thing.
level because eventually they'll come back. I think that letting the fields lay fallow would do wonders for a lot of these things. I think that's why, like, the Batman movie, Matt Reeves' Batman, was as good as it was because we let the Batman film fields lay fallow before it came out.
How
What?
you sure about that? We've had a lot of Batman movies and Lego Batman movies and Joker movies. There's been a lot of
I
Batman
mean, I
around.
understand. Okay,
And
but
I say
like,
this as a Batman fan. There was Super Pets that had a lot of Batman in it. There was
right. But I mean, like, Batman as Batman, right? Batman not part of a team. Batman never had a standalone movie in the Snyderverse. Batman always came with baggage, which is crazy, right? So, like, and I think that there was some reasoning behind that. Like, you can do Batman in your films, but he can't ever do a standalone movie. He has to be grounded in this world as a force. And I think part of that was because they wanted to take a rest between The Dark Knight Rises being like the last standalone Batman story and then doing another one.
I think there are a lot of people out there that would go further though and and say what they want to see is not see comic book movies for a while.
Yes.
Which is a fair at this point a fair feeling. So like the biggest thing I can compare it to is like westerns. Where like there was a long period where like westerns kind of stopped getting made because they just weren't in vogue anymore. And then what you got was you got a lot of people that were very well crafted in making movies that had this love for the western kind of do what they did over the years and slowly bring it back. And now we're back to getting some pretty steady western entertainment across the board, TV and movie, right? So like westerns is kind of the way that I look whenever somebody talks about the idea that like comic book movies need to take a breather, right? Is that there needs to be this moment where comic book films take a step back. And I totally agree with all of that. It's just that we
Yeah.
we know that these movies are going to be attempted over the next few years. Even westerns never went away completely. There was always one or two that people were trying to put out there and make, and then sometimes they landed, sometimes they didn't. But it wasn't until it wasn't until really probably 2010-ish or so where like westerns seemed to come back in like a big way to the point where now we have this entire like Yellowstone universe that we joke about all
Well,
the time, right?
I mean, you talk about that, but I mean, also, like, westerns, we were super saturated with westerns, like, going into the 70s.
Right.
And then you have things like Tombstone and Dances with Wolves that, like, stand out. I mean, Unforgiven, that are
Yeah.
westerns, but, like, westerns that were, like, made to be movies that weren't just being pissed out to make money, to take
Right,
advantage
exactly.
of the trend. So,
Right.
I mean, I get where you're
Noticeably,
coming with.
though, you have those movies coming out few and far between, kind of in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Right? You don't really have like the steady stream. Whereas, like now, I could probably find 3 television channels right now playing new TV shows that are all Western themed, right?
I mean, but I think that you're comparing apples to oranges when you compare movies and television, though. But also, you're not
I,
wrong to look at all of the fruit, because one of the reasons that Marvel became like something that had a bitter taste is because they tried to also infiltrate television with this thing that had been just cinema. So I apologize for being short-sighted in my yelling at you about bringing television into the
no,
conversation.
because part of the whole problem is
just,
that Marvel is saturating both film
yeah,
and television. Yeah,
yeah.
like this idea being that like people want to take a break from this genre and all of that, but like it's not. We can't just like walk away from it completely. People are going to try and kind of do what they do with it, where it's like, and we want them to, because there's going to be certain movies in this genre that we enjoy, that we come back to. I mean, the bigger thing is like in 10 years, how many kids that are growing up on these movies now that we keep all railing on and talking about how they're not working for us are going to turn out to be the Blade movies of the 2030s, because like those movies were not my family's favorite like style of movie either when I was growing up. I enjoyed them, but they weren't popular around me in droves, right? The like Elektra wasn't in this movie because she was once hugely popular, right? That's not what the bit was. Like there's this idea that this movie was willing to celebrate the weird and the one-offs and the things that didn't quite work, and we loved those things anyway. Now we're looking at all of this stuff that Disney's trying and it's not working, and we're all acting like they've somehow done something unholy to this thing that has always had this kind of reception. We were lucky that there was 10 years, maybe, if that, 8 years really, where like comic book movies were fucking bangers. We've always talked about how that wasn't what they were like before, and that's not what they're going to be like now for a while going forward. But we're still going to get those ones that we love. We just have to give them a fucking chance. So like this movie is really interesting because it is pleading back to like the masters at Disney and being like, please let us keep making movies like this because clearly there's an audience for them. And it's also pleading with the audience saying, don't forget to support these movies when they happen, because like the only way that we get to a point where we get to see, Wesley Snipes on screen with Ryan Reynolds again and get a one-off quip about how, no, you never did like me. Like that moment where I was just like, fuck, I was wondering if they were going to address it. I was kind of hoping Jessica Biel might show up to like kind of be like the go-between for them or something, but like at least they like nodded to it. And like that moment only happens in this movie because some dumb kid who really liked Blade 3 when nobody else did, like really stood up for it, right? Like that's the reason why this whole movie exists, is because we gave a chance to these movies that everybody else was telling us was shit. And that's what's going to happen with these movies. We're going to find kids that loved the Marvels growing up. We're going to find kids that were really into the Eternals at some point. Like that's going to happen.
I want them to be my disciples. I really liked the Eternals. I get so upset when I like want to talk about the Eternals and I just get shut down by people like, no, you didn't. You just think you did. And I'm like, no, I liked it because it was different and it was cool. And they've always been characters that like, yes, I'm a Jack Kirby fan. So like more Jack Kirby characters in the MCU, sign me up. Any Jack Kirby characters really in the MCU, considering most of them were with Fox because of the buyout, right? Like I just I don't know.
I think that movie was too big for people. Like I think that's the other thing that's really cool about the Deadpool Wolverine stuff, is that it feels really big with a lot of the stuff that it's talking about in terms of like world endingness and all of that, but like they make it a point to consistently remind you that the reason Wade is there is like 7 people. Like he's got a very small world that he truly cares about, and that is, he is not trying to save the universe. He is just trying to save those people. And like bringing it back to that concept constantly made me feel, at least, that like the movie's much better balanced. It doesn't feel like it's this huge over the top thing versus something like Eternals, where I can totally get some people who just couldn't buy into that movie because it's hard to care about individual characters in a team movie when you've never met them before, and the entire world is going to shit. Like it was basically like going into Endgame and having never seen a single Avengers movie before, or a like Marvel movie before. I would not expect anybody to understand, grasp, or care about any of that, right?
I will say I think they did I rewatching Infinity War, right? After, like, years later, like after I hadn't watched any of the movies beforehand, and looking at it and being like, they do a pretty good job of establishing who these characters are if you have no idea who these characters are. Like, I think that's why, like, Infinity War more than Endgame, because Endgame is technically like a sequel to Infinity War, I don't think that everybody kind of gets that moment where, like, they get to do something. They expect the first movie to have done all the heavy lifting. It's like one of those weird things with, like, two-part movies where, like, you really need to see both of them. And so then sometimes it's like, wouldn't it be great if you just did it as one big movie? That might be fun, huh? Sorry, Kill Bill. Just talking to you right here. That was just for Kill Bill.
I mean, for the record, it's not like Tarantino didn't want Kill Bill to be
I know that. I know.
Was...
But it's one of those things where, I mean, I think he has screened it as one big thing, but the fact that we haven't gotten a release yet, right? Like, a la the Godfather saga or the Godfather epic, I don't know what it's called, but the one where the two movies are edited together in chronological order, like a Kill Bill like that would be really cool, right? I would also love a Mamma Mia that was the first Mamma Mia and the second Mamma Mia put together in chronological order. But that's because I'm an insane person. I know that. But going to this, you're right. At the end of the day, and I don't know why I have to say it, but also, whoever wrote this movie, they did a really good thing. Like, Blade and Elektra are there specifically because their movies released 2004, 2005, and then the MCU came along, and it overshadowed everything that came before it. So, like, their whole desire to have an ending and not just have been left out in, like, the rain, so to speak, is really interesting because I don't think we were ever going to get a sequel to Elektra. I think Elektra didn't do a good job. I also think that Blade Trinity is one of those things that, you know, has its audience, but overall is one of the weaker Blade movies.
Of course.
So
it
probably
is the weaker Blade.
Yeah, you know. So that whole thing happens, but then the MCU comes along, and it's not one of those, well, it has IP recognition, let's do another movie with Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Let's do another Wesley Snipes Blade movie, right? Because we know that there's already a built-in audience. Those conversations stop when the MCU joins the scene.
Right.
In 2008. Fucking Jon Favreau's fault. No, I love you, Jon Favreau. It's just fun to say. I mean, I love it. I loved Deadpool Wolverine. It took me 2 viewings to really appreciate it. And I don't know if that's going to be for everybody, but that first viewing, I was such a giddy fucking kid watching it that, like, I didn't take in the nuance. That's the other thing that I would say about, like, it is entertaining, but the nuance of the story I didn't focus on or truly get until my second viewing, when I'm like, oh, this is just all about, and granted, that's because of the Seinfeld good riddance at the end during the credits, like, really being that goodbye moment. And then you watch the movie knowing that that was part of the intention, and you see all of the stuff that exists in the movie that is specifically there as a goodbye. I
mean, they literally throw universe. The 20th Century Fox like sign up like a tombstone.
Yeah.
Man.
And again,
I don't know. Like, in terms of like nuance and stuff, like the ways in which they also again want to try and use this as like as an ending, they try and make sure that they give everybody fans what they wanted from these characters, right? So like Wolverine in this one, and like his fighting style, his dialogue, like his costume, I mean, that's the most obvious one, right? But like going out of their way to make a Wolverine that people have, I have heard people bitch for years. Yeah, I like Hugh Jackman, but it's just not like Wolverine of the comics. And like, why isn't he on all fours? Why isn't he super fast? Why doesn't he swear more? Why doesn't he like like all of this shit that I've always heard? And they're like, fine, here it is.
You want a Wolverine like that? Take it. I really liked, and I know that this is just insane. So if you listen to the show for a while, I have Wolverine in the studio. Not like I have a Wolverine in the studio. It's an action figure, and I have a different one for all seasons. I have a right now. Summer Wolverine is out, and that is Wolverine from the Fox movies, but he does have bone claws that I took from the Old Man Wolverine set, or one of that. Like, I took these claws that he has from a different Wolverine, so that it's like a bone claw, kind of like early in X-Men Origins style Wolverine. And then I also have first appearance Wolverine, who sort of showed up in it. I was happy to see him in the yellow and brown, but like, didn't you fight the Hulk in this costume? Technically, yes, but when I think about Wolverine fighting the Hulk, I think about him in that first appearance costume. And then I also have the Old Man Wolverine, who comes out in December. So X-Force was not represented. However, in leap years, I have a Wolverine that comes out, and it's Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. So in this way that, like, they really were appealing to nerds and fans and all of that, the Wolverines that are in the studio with me when I'm recording, almost all of them were represented. And that was cool to me. That I have a patch Wolverine. I'm at the point now, because for the 60th anniversary of Marvel, they've done a bunch of Wolverine figures. Like, they did 4-packs, and Patch with Hulk in the suit was one of them. I'm at the point where I'm like, am I gonna have a Wolverine for every month instead of for every season? We'll see what happens. But it was cool to see that whole montage of Wolverines. I mean, the Cavalrine was fantastic. I'm upset that we didn't get more of Henry Cavill as Wolverine.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It tapped into why I love Wolverine, right? And it's not that I like the X-Men too, but the character of Wolverine and what you're able to do with him, like, this movie understood that.
Right, yeah.
And that was excellent.
The mirroring of that with the army of Deadpools at the end of the movie, right? With just all sorts of crazy shit going on in that.
Yeah, Greatest Showman Deadpool was fantastic. It was, and Matthew McConaughey being the voice of Cowboy Deadpool. Like, it was great. It was, this movie understood what we all wanted. And I guess I'm the fool, right? What a fool believes. Thank you, Doobie Brothers, for singing my theme song today. Is that, like, going forward, they understand this is what they should be doing. But then you see Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Dr. Doom. And here's the thing, right? Let's talk about the Dr. Doom in the room. If he's coming back to play Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, I don't have a problem with that. I think that he can play another character. That's fine. If he's coming to play a Tony Stark who becomes Dr. Doom, I'm not interested in that. And knowing what I know about Disney...
Have we heard any indication that that's where they're going, though?
Everybody has theories. That's the problem. I mean, even IMDb right now on the front page, I just freaking saw it. Our doomsday scenarios. How can Iron Man play Dr. Doom? And that's a 5-minute video on IMDb. And it's like, but I don't want Tony Stark to be Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
I really want him to be Victor Von Doom. Here's my thing. My scenario, right? Do you have a scenario prepared before I give us dueling scenarios for Doom?
Well, I mean, like, where Tony Stark is Doom? Do I have a scenario in that regard?
Yeah, well, wait, like, to justify how Robert Downey Jr. could play Dr. Doom, outside of the fact that he's just Victor Von Doom being played by another guy. Like, do you have a scenario?
I am not writing off the idea that they will try and connect it in some way. That idea that it might be some alternate universe Tony Stark thing, there's a risk of that. I'm not going to act like there's not. I just don't think that's what they're doing. I just think it's I think it's just going to be Victor Von Doom. And it's just, he's going to be in heavy makeup, if not straight up full CGI, right? Like, for mocap. He's going to have probably voice modulation on. I think it's going to be like a full Bane situation almost in that regard. So, like, in that, why can't we have Robert Downey Jr. play him?
Right.
I think
that's wonderful. I love it. I absolutely love it. Sejin, I want Marvel, Disney, and all of them to understand what you just said, and that will be enough for the fans. I don't think it's going to happen. I want it to be what happens. gentleman's bet that that's what occurs, is that they realize, oh, we could just be an actor playing a different character, and we don't need to come up with some fucking convoluted obstacle course a la Double Dare to make it all fit together. Like, no, please divorce yourself from that. Take the cue from fucking Deadpool and Wolverine and just say that it can exist, right? But if they are going to convolutedly attach everything, I want friggin' Dr. Victor Von Doom to use face-off technology to give himself Tony Stark's face to fix his fucking fucked up visage from what Reed did to him in college. I want it to be face-off technology.
That he puts it on maybe to try and like sully Stark's name or something?
Like, not even to sully Stark's name. He steals Tony Stark's face. And then he gets to be this beloved person, but underneath it's still Victor Von Doom.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like infamous Iron Man, because everybody's like, oh, what about when Doom became Iron Man, infamous Iron Man? And it's like, yup, you just know the title because you didn't read the book. Because that's not what's happening here. But if you want to take something from the infamous Iron Man of it all, and rather than Doom stepping into the persona of Iron Man to honor the passing of Iron Man in the second Civil War, right? Fucking Marvel's already had 2 Civil Wars, Sajin. What is up with that? But like, in order for that to be the thing, if it is Doom taking over Stark's face to like trade on his goodwill, but then like Doctor Doom is still out there, but nobody knows that they're the same person, that'd be very cool to me.
Sure.
Like, I don't know. That's what I want to have happen.
So what the other thing that I'm trying to find is, just so that we're all clear, the other thing at the part of this conversation that always gets me is, when is Fantastic Four supposed to come out?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's set in the 1960s.
No, it does matter, because we're also all having this conversation when, like, if this movie is not supposed to come out, 2025?
Yeah, I think it's next year, right? I don't think Doom's going to be part of it. Doom seems like a new thing. Doom seems like the solution to the Jonathan Majors Kang problem. So I feel like Fantastic Four was written without Doom. Especially when, I do have to give them credit, because 2012 at Shellback Artworks, the weekend after Avengers came out, sitting in a room with a bunch of guys who've worked in the comic book industry since the 80s, discussions about how you make a Fantastic Four movie that works, and everybody in that room was in agreement, you make it a period piece, and then you bring them forward. And that seems like what they're going to end up doing to make a Fantastic Four film work.
Yeah.
Is set it in the 60s and then move it forward.
So then Doom, right, so this idea of like Doom, I don't know, maybe by the end of the movie Doom is revealed or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Doom's going to be part of it. I mean, which is strange, because you do the Fantastic Four, Doom's like the 5th member of the Fantastic Four. He's Pete Best, right? To be just a fucking asshole about it. Sorry, Pete Best. I love you as a drummer. Go listen to some of the work that he's done.
I've had conflicting stories that I've read about Doom in my life. One's where, yes, very much he is like super tied to the Fantastic Four, and then other stories where he has his own history, his own background, like completely divorced from them. So that's the other thing is are they going to go with this tie-in to the Fantastic Four? Because I know that's what the old movie. That's what the 2000s movies did.
You can still say the old movies. Even Fantastic, he works with them. Like, like all of them tie them closely together. And the fact of the matter is, it's one of those situations, I'm a real big fan of it. I have to be honest with you. I like the idea of, like, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom went to college together. They were in college together. And both of them pined over Sue Storm. Right? Like, both of them wanted to date Sue, and then during a freaking experiment, Doom is caught in the blast of it, and it fucks up his face, so then he's like, she'll never love me with this face, and he goes and runs off, like the fucking Phantom of the Opera, right? Let's be honest, like
Hmm.
everything is stolen from other things, right? Christine will never love me because of my fucked up face. And then he finds out after having grown up in America, like thinking that he was an American, that he is actually the long lost heir to the throne of Latveria. So then he goes off after this fucking lowest point in his life in college and builds a whole new name for himself. And then, like, you know, he sees his old classmates become the Fantastic Four, and he's, like, doing stuff as Doctor Doom, but then they come across and you're just like, oh, fuck, it's you. It's like when you and I go on adventures and then suddenly we run into somebody from our past that we haven't thought about for years.
But then, like, the version of Doom that I'm super familiar with is the one that grows up in, like, Latveria, like, trying to, like, avenge the death of his, like, mother because of, like, traveling Romani groups or something, right? Like, there's, like, a whole other story that they could do with Doom where that's not the case. I do think in that story he still ends up somehow in the Americas and like going to college like with with Reed, because I do think that is still part of that story. But there is like this whole other side where they tell the story of like him just having this whole other background that the Fantastic Four just happened to stumble into eventually, right? Like it's the difference between it's the difference between Batman's where you have Tim Burton's Batman where he creates the Joker, and other Batmans where the Joker has just kind of showed up and has always just kind of been there, part of Gotham, and like they go toe to toe. Is like, are we going to have a Doom that is so closely tied to the Fantastic Four that he needs to be in this movie so that we see his creation, or is this going to be more like this other version of Doom where he's just always kind of been there in the background growing up and doing this stuff, and then he's going to be able to get tied into them later? Because like as far as I know right now with this Fantastic Four movie, they have announced that Downey's playing Doom, not announced whether or not that's in this movie, and Galactus has been announced for this movie.
Yes.
So, like, hat on a hat if Doom is in this movie with Galactus. Like, that's the other side of this. All of this rests on the fact that Disney's not going to do something stupid, which obviously we know that they will. So Doom, of course, is going to be in this movie, and of course it's going to be Robert Downey Jr. Of course it's going to be Tony Stark that somehow gets turned in. Like, all of this bullshit's going to come true. We know that, right?
I mean, I want to believe it's not. I want to believe. Here's what I'm going to put on the line right now. I don't think Doom shows up in the Fantastic Four movie as anything more than a credits teaser. I don't think he has more than 5 minutes of screen time in this movie.
I love that. I think
that's and I think that, like, based on everything that we know about how it works, that's how it should go. Because it seems like they're introducing Doom to come later on as a thing. And if they're going to actually dedicate to being a period piece Fantastic Four film, which is, again, like the way that you do it, right? Because they're almost too wholesome to, like, grow up in a modern world with the cynicism and the snark, right? I mean, there's been great Fantastic Four stories. The idea that, like, I think of when he's with, I think he's talking to a young Franklin Richards, and he's like, do you know why I did this for my friends and made them fantastic? Is I stole their lives from them by doing a stupid experiment that I didn't double check, and they all became monsters. But so that the world wouldn't see them as monsters, I turned them into heroes. Like, this idea that, like, he made the Fantastic Four this super public, our identities are known, hyper transparent superhero group was so that, like, Ben Grimm would not be looked at as a fucking monster amongst us. The guy who can light himself on fire. Like,
what's his nuts that played him in the original movies?
Iwan Griffin?
Yeah, I like the interpretation that he takes with him, though. Also, with him being like, he definitely has that side of him, right? But there's also the side of him that he's just a little too blinded by the science, to like in that regard, and I don't want to lose that aspect of it, right? Like, Reed Richards makes this one terrible mistake in his life, and it costs not just him but his friends their lives, and it's what turns him into this bastion of good. It is the reason that he is one of the top ones in the Marvel universe, right? there's a reason you bring him in Mouth of Madness or whatever it was.
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. Thank you. Yeah, like there's a reason why Reed Richards is one of those ones that we keep wanting to see on film, right? And I think like it is watching a man pay for his own hubris. So like I love this idea of this very like good, thoughtful like Reed Richards, and I want there to be plenty of that in it. But I don't want it to lose this side of him that is like
the
him
amoral
trying
scientist.
like he sees what that and it's what it's what made him really interesting going up against guys like Tony and like Pym and things like that,
is that I will do whatever it takes for the science, but I have firsthand experienced that there are human costs to what we're doing. There's a reason why like Reed Richards would never be the person who created Ultron. Right? Like that makes sense. And then the other beautiful thing is we always talk about like, how come in the first Marvel movie the villain is just like the antithesis of the hero, right? Doom is the Bizarro of Reed Richards, right? This idea of like, he will do whatever it takes. He will marry magic and science in the pursuit of more science. He doesn't care who gets hurt. I mean, yes, he is hyper protective of his country and its people. I love that about Dr. Doom. I think that like, as the leader of Latveria, the fact that he is not like a dictator, but like he wants to make sure that his people do not suffer because he has understood suffering in his own life.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even to the point where like when Cable runs off and creates his whole like mutant utopia, like Doom actually helps him design it I think, on the politics level.
And
like,
how to run it. Yeah. Yeah, like there's a lot. Doom is a freaking awesome character. I'm a little upset that Dr. Doom Little wasn't playing him from the beginning, if we're going to be completely honest. Because Doom can also be a sassy bitch, the way that Robert Downey Jr. has portrayed Tony. Like, I mean, what Robert Downey Jr. did for Tony Stark is undeniable, right? Absolutely undeniable in terms of important for that character, making him relevant to a modern audience and all of that. Taking who was essentially a B-list superhero and elevating him to be the face of the entire MCU, that's insane, right? And he did it. And I just want to make sure that they let him do that again with Doctor Doom. They don't tie his hands.
Accord, though, right? Yeah. Like, they can't be forcing that. And I think that's what some people are really afraid of, is that they're going to try and force this new style of MCU on us, like, and not let it just do the organic thing that it did, which is where all of the hate comes from. The whole casting concept is because it feels forced, and I can appreciate that. I just, in a movie that we have seen hide nor hair of, people are already willing to just start ripping the fucking walls down on this thing. And this is exactly the problem, is that we're never going to get the chance to have our dumb little Marvel movies again if we don't let these movies fucking have a chance to breathe. If the movie comes out and it sucks, then let's talk about it. It sucks. But, like, we have gotten so in the habit now where 1 year, 2 years, 3 years before a movie even gets made, we have all decided this movie is not going to be the one that we let live. And that sucks, because we're never going to get our Blade Trinities again. I'm never going to get another Elektra in this world, you know?
I mean, in that defense, this is the royal we. This is not something that we're looking for at the Say Report. I don't think that needs to be specified, but I want to specify it. Because very rarely, like, the only reason that I'm bummed about the Robert Downey Jr. thing is because I've seen what Disney has done in the past. And them bringing him back to play Doom and bringing back the Russo brothers to direct these movies really feels like that Disney move of going back to the well of profits, expecting that same success. And that's lazy, right? Like, they need to do the other part of it. Like, where Sejan says this stuff needs to happen organically, because Marvel movies were successful, they had distilled out the formula they thought they needed for a successful Marvel movie. So there was no more innovation. There was no more taking chances, right? Sure. In the end, they all felt like the same movie. And that is one of the reasons why, like, I think people got tired of them.
But it didn't help when movies that were trying to break the mold, like The Eternals, like Thor: Love and Thunder, also weren't hitting, right? Like
Yeah.
the amount of turnaround on Thor 2 after Thor Love and Thunder came out, I haven't seen since Star Wars films, right? And that's a whole other fucking thing, right? Like we can point to other franchises where people do this too, but we'll stick to Marvel for the sake of keeping our sanity. But like the ways that people turned around and started talking to me about the greatness of Thor 2 The Dark World after Thor Love and Thunder came out and how they wished Thor would get back to those kinds of movies. I was left scratching my fucking head because as somebody that enjoyed The Dark World, like it's not my least favorite Marvel movie. It's also not one of my favorite Marvel movies. I don't I don't know anybody that had been telling me beforehand that they were the celebration of making a funny Thor movie when Thor Ragnarok came out. Like the ways people were like, "Oh, this is so refreshing that we're not stuck in this Shakespearean drama that we were in these first two." And then the fourth one comes out, and everybody's just like, "Where's all the Shakespearean drama? We don't want him to be funny anymore. This is dumb." It's just like, okay, like this is like I had whiplash, and I'm not involved in those fucking movies at all.
Yeah. I mean, I always liked Thor the Dark World. I was a big fan of it. I think that they made the stakes work. I liked how they incorporated Jane Foster. I mean, in terms of a movie, right, that as a comic book movie, everybody was still alive at the end of it, at the end of the first one. Like, we don't get a lot of movies that are like that. Like, the X-Men films, kind of, but even then, like, in a way that, like, Magneto was taken off of the board for so much of X2 before he is, like, put into play again. But Loki is right in fucking play from the start of the Dark World. Like, it's excellent. It's this thing that you never really get to see. And like, Jane coming back and all the people they bring back, like, I really enjoyed it. But then I saw Ragnarok and I really enjoyed that too, because they found a way to, like, work cosmic Thor into the movies in a way that felt organic.
Yeah,
in a way that,
when we're talking about, like, audiences demanding that we not just get the same movie over and over again, but then every time they've tried to not make that same movie and try and do something different,
across the corals. Yeah, like it's
the movie doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't land. People get weird about it, and it's just like it's really hard to see what fans want right now in terms of this sort of stuff. Like, and it seems like Deadpool and Wolverine, just to bring it back to that, like really figures it out, because like the idea is audiences don't care. They just want pretty shit in front of them. Is the unfortunate real lesson of this movie. Is like we don't care about tying it all together. We like a couple of fun references that don't quite make sense in the timeline of things, and like where we are, and like when we talk about these characters being pulled out of their timelines, where in their timelines are they pulled out of? Do other versions of these characters still exist in those timelines? There's all sorts of unanswered questions because the movie doesn't care to answer them, and it's this idea of just like at some point that becomes kind of its own problem, in that like if the movie is going to just be so just like here's a pretty thing with here's all flash and no substance, are we okay with that too? I don't know.
Well, I will say this. If I were ranking the Deadpool films, it would be Deadpool, Deadpool Wolverine, Deadpool 2, right? And one of the reasons for that is that Deadpool 2 went a little too out there in terms of the improvisation, right? And trying to make sure that, like, let's try to be as hilarious as possible in this. Deadpool and Wolverine, because of the writer's strike, they were not allowed to improvise. And I think that really elevated the film. When I found out about Once Upon a Deadpool, the PG-13 re-edit of Deadpool 2, I leapt at the opportunity to go see it. And I had a blast watching that film. And that was because it felt tighter, because they didn't let they had to get rid of most of the improv, because most of the improv was the R-rated stuff. But with Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't need a PG-13 re-edit of this film. If they do one and they have a good framing device, then yes, I will probably go see it. Because Once Upon a Deadpool, in addition to the fact that, like, we have to tighten it up because all the parts that felt extraneous were fucks and such, Like, but the framing device of him kidnapping Fred Savage to recreate the Princess Bride with him, that was good. Like, all of those scenes were very funny. Like, it worked. Like, they put in the time for that. And if they do that again for a Deadpool and Wolverine movie that, like, is re-edited to be PG-13, I would be happy about it. But I don't need it. I don't need it in the way that for Deadpool 2, I needed a movie that, like, streamlined the story. And then watching Deadpool and Wolverine where, like, we couldn't improvise. In fact, they make a joke about it when Buck, like, says a line that feels like improvisation. And they're like, bitch, are you improvising? And, like they hang their hat on the fact that we're not allowed to fucking do that because, you know, what's going on in Hollywood right now. The film felt so much tighter. And you need to think, in like a Deadpool comic, it's all scripted, right? You're not going to be reading the comic and then suddenly Deadpool says something different.
No, I would argue it should feel that way, right? Like we should definitely have that moment where it feels like, is he actually... Because, remember, breaking the fourth wall is an actual superpower according to Marvel in the Marvel...
Yes.
In the Marvel Encyclopedia, like, Deadpool's ability to break the fourth wall is one of his superpowers.
Right. It's also one of She-Hulk's, and she was doing it first. Just a reminder. Love it. I absolutely love it. I don't mind. But yes, it should feel like it comes organically and that it feels like improv. And I think they did a good job in the writing of the script for Deadpool and Wolverine, that it felt like improv when everything was scripted out. That's I want to give them their due for that. The whole scene where, like, Feige said we can't mention cocaine in the movie, and him and Blind Al give all the various names for it. That's all scripted out. And that feels better scripted out than if it were him and Leslie Uggams just trying to make each other laugh, coming up with pseudonyms for cocaine. Like, right? Like, I don't know. That's just me. Like, I'm fine with improv, but I think that a script sometimes has its place.
Yeah, no.
And that is what Deadpool Wolverine, that's something that I learned from Deadpool Wolverine. Thank you, Deadpool Wolverine, for reminding me of the importance of having a script. Sorry. Pyro, I was happy about that. I never would have thought that we'd see Cassandra Nova in a film ever because of just how off-putting her power is.
And the movie does a fantastic job of showing you just how fucking off-putting it is.
Well, you know what the nice thing about it is that in addition to it being, like, just horrific, the visuals are horrific of when she's, like, sticking her fingers in somebody's brain to, like, telepathically read it. It's also a really good visualization of what a telepath is actually doing. Because it's just as intrusive for Charles Xavier or Jean Grey to go into your mind without your permission and poke around. Right? But, like, to actually see her fingers in there, it's that reminder of, like, yeah, there's nothing cool about a telepath. They are violating your mental plane. And it's gross on a level. And here's a visual of that.
No, the movie does a fantastic job in that regard. Also, you know, like, the ways in which it's poking at the MCU and kind of the grandness of it all is just great. I mean, getting Chris Evans to come in, playing Johnny Storm as opposed to Cap, and then giving him just some vile dialogue at some point and things like that. Just
well, and the other thing is that, like, that is a nice little through line, right? Hopefully everybody stayed till the end of the credits where you get to see that Wade was not lying. Johnny Storm did say all of those things about Cassandra Nova. But also, that is so in character for the Fox Human Torch. He was a bit of a shit talker. So you take off the PG-13 filter, he's going to be talking about licking cinnamon rings. Like, it was, not only was it a great sequence, it felt sincere to the character the way that he was represented in the Fox films. Like, it didn't feel like they invented something for that character that was out of, like, so that we can have Chris Evans, who as Captain America is like, language.
I also think there's something to be said that I don't think there's much reverence for that character amongst the audience either, right? Like, even if they had pushed that character too far, quote unquote, I don't think many people in the audience would have been that upset. Like, oh, I finally got Johnny Storm back and he's a jerk. It's like, yeah, no, I don't think there was anybody really worried about that.
Because he's Johnny Storm. That's what he does.
Yeah.
It really worked for me. And I really liked that. Like, for me, that was one of the big, because the other thing is, my mother was supposed to come with us to see the movie on Friday, and then my father ended up having a doctor's appointment, so she couldn't come. The second thing that I thought of when I realized who was sitting in front of me in the movie theater was, when can I go see this film with Mom? Because I didn't want any of the stuff that happens in this film to be ruined for her by marketing. Or, like, even to take it one step further, the Tuesday after the film come out, Channing Tatum was Instagramming photos of himself from this movie, which kind of ruins a beautiful cameo that he has that like actually means something in the grand scheme. And now the TV commercials for Deadpool Wolverine also show him coming up and saying, "Whoo, I'm about to make a name for myself here." Like that, like I don't get marketing. I don't get marketing as like, if you don't fucking go see it, we're gonna ruin the movie for you.
Well, it's that idea that if what we've shown you already didn't get you, maybe this will, is what I think it is. Like, it's not ruining it. They're hoping that tease will be enough for people to be like, wait, what the fuck? And then go and see the movie because they want to see what the hell that was all about that they just saw.
It bothers me. I understand where you're coming from. You're not wrong. It still bothers me.
I mean, no, marketing sucks. We've talked about marketing ruining films many a time. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I am 100% sure that the thinking behind it is we've got everybody that this reveal was a big reveal for. The next move is to reveal it and see if we can get anybody who cares a little bit less, right? And then after that, we'll move on to the next character or the next thing.
I hate it, CJ. You know I hate it. There's nothing I can do about it, but boy, do I hate it. Yeah, I mean that. I overall I liked the film, but then seeing it with my mother the second time, I cared about the movie more. And one of the funniest things was she's like, "So wait, Chris Evans played the fire guy too?" Like, she didn't know that, and that made me happy. To like, she thought it was Captain America until he went flame on. And, like, that was fun. That was fun for me. And she still had fun with the movie. She wasn't like, well, I'm done because it wasn't Captain America. So, and again, she said she liked it. I guess the last thing I want to do talking about this movie is compare it to its closest analog, which would be Spider-Man No Way Home. And I think that it benefited from that movie existing first, in the fact that all of the cameos felt a lot more organic. Like, it kind of feels like, if you'll pardon this comparison, that Spider-Man No Way Home did that thing in Justice League or Batman v Superman. It's Batman v Superman, where like the movie paused to give all of the coming members of the Justice League a little trailer so that you knew who the character was. Like, every character that was introduced in No Way Home, except for, like, Dr. Octopus. Like, that one kind of felt very organic. But all the other ones felt like, hey, remember this guy? Like, even when Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up, like, it kind of feels like, oh, the movie comes to a pause so that, like, oh, here's 5 minutes so that you can all, like, drool over the fact that Tobey Maguire's in this movie. Like, I don't feel like Elektra, Blade, and Gambit all showed up right on top of each other. And it felt...
I think there's something to be said about the fact that, again, the reverence for Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man is on a much higher level than the reverence is for Wesley Snipes playing Blade, to the point where Even the movie makes fun of him for being like, "There's never gonna be another Blade," and then like Wade just barrels down the camera, like, yeah.
I
Well,
don't
there
know
might not be. We don't know, to be
that
honest.
hit a little differently considering the fact that Blade is in like production hell. And then I'm thinking in the back of my head, what about Sticky Fingers in Blade the series? Right? Remember when Sticky Fingers was Blade?
Oh,
I'm
man.
just bothered by the fact that he goes by Sticky Fingers. I want to see if I can find his real name. Kirk Jones, better known by his stage name Sticky Fingers. Yep. I liked Blade the series. I had seen it before I saw the Blade movies. I'll say it.
Yeah, but like I think that there is definitely in this movie the cameos are purposeful in a way that they weren't necessarily whereas like in Spider-Man it was just everybody wants to see these Spider-Mans together. We're probably never going to make another Spider-Man movie. Let's just put all these Spider-Mans on screen. And it was the same idea here. Like, it really was. It's just, we're never going to make these movies again. Let's just put them on screen. I just think that this time around, we knew that we weren't going to get as many people in the audience that were oohing and ahhing at Jennifer Garner showing up. I mean, how many people even know about, like, the on-again, off-again relationship of Channing Tatum and Gambit, right? Like, that was a funny joke for somebody that has been following that nonsense.
Right, exactly. It's
But,
a funny
like,
joke for you and me and other people. Other people I know get it, but like specifically like because when we saw X-Men Origins and we're like, oh, he played Gambit? That's so lame. And then, oh, Channing Tatum might play Gambit? That sounds exciting. And then,
but then, like,
yeah.
and I don't mean to act like, oh, this was just for us snobs that pay attention to this stuff. What I mean is, there is definitely a different level to that compared to Andrew Garfield, compared to Tobey Maguire,
Yes.
compared to
Very
Doc
yes.
Ock. Like there is a lot there's a lot more riding on those kinds of appearances.
Yes, you're not wrong, but it doesn't change the fact that it kind of hits in that different way.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I mean, like, yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I was optimistic that like Disney had learned, and that's why this was the only movie this year, so that all the other ones are also gonna take this like loosey goosey approach where like it doesn't fucking matter the continuity, right? How many fucking comic books have you read that like just forget parts about characters?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah, we're like completely like change up powers and things like
Yeah.
that. Like I the lessons I hope that they learn from Deadpool Wolverine, Disney MCU specifically, is I hope that they learn that people are willing to put up with the idea that things might be different sometimes, that they don't necessarily know everything going in, and that's okay. They can still buy in, they can still have fun, they will still buy a ticket to your movie, you will still make the money, right? But I also hope that audiences learn a little bit from Deadpool Wolverine in that like we remember that like we have to go and see these movies before we start shitting all over them because this might be the one that you like even though all your friends didn't, right? Like I know people that have just not gone to Marvel movies since Endgame because like they've not heard good things and they just don't want to go. And that's a bummer because like there's been some movies since then that potentially could be I mean, fuck it. So if you like Madam Web, right? You deserve the opportunity to go see Madam Web and enjoy it.
right? I mean, even as somebody who like likes that character, liked based on the trailers what that movie was going to be, and then did not get that movie, I wasn't disappointed because I still got to see a Madam Web film. Like, it still made me happy. The only thing about Madam Web that upsets me is the producer saying we set it in 2003 so we could play Toxic by Britney Spears. Like, that is the one thing I'm just like, you know, that like any year after a song releases, that song could just show up.
Does that mean that the beginning of Deadpool Wolverine takes place in the year Bye 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 came
Yep, 2000. It's definitely the year 2000. That was the joke I made with Dale. I'm like, I can't believe that movie was set in the year 2000. And she's like, what? And I'm like, that's when Bye 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 came out. And she said, go fuck yourself. And then she yelled about the producer on Madam Web who said that same thing. Like, and she's like, what the dumbest thing?
Yeah.
Hey?
I don't know. Like, I hope that, like, because, like, I do want to see them do something interesting with a character like Doom that I think is going to take more than one movie. So there is going to have to be kind of this idea of connectivity and building again, right? And I want that. But I don't want every movie to have to be tied to that. I don't need Deadpool 4 to have a Doom focus to it. I just don't. Like I like I'm excited to see where Disney decides to go with some of the stuff that they have talked about. Because it could get buck wild. It could go really bad. It could be that I get my own Blade Trinity again. You know?
I mean, you bring up Thor: Love and Thunder, and I had a beautiful conversation with somebody who did not like that movie, explaining why I did. And a lot of it comes from the fact that, like, that movie cares a lot about the music. So, and that's it. Like, they used all Guns N' Roses songs for that movie. And it's like, so, like, I was expecting November Rain to play. And it did. And when it did, it made me happy. Like, I had all these expectations of Guns N' Roses songs that could fit with the story. And then they did a really nice job of making them fit with the story. But if you're not somebody who gives a damn about the film's music, let alone, like, a director taking the time to, you know, this is essentially a Guns N' Roses jukebox musical. Hope you're ready for that. I understand, like, you missing that entire, like, 40% of what, like, that movie is trying to do. Like, I get it. I understand why it wouldn't work for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not everybody's like me. And sitting there like, holy fucking shit. See a goddamn Love and Thunder twice in theaters. I don't know. I just don't know, Seidrim.
You know, movies are always a give and take between the studios that are making them and the audiences that are willing to put up with them. And like, if we're lucky, everybody's kind of working in harmony. The studio is making a movie that we want to see, and we want to see it, so we spend our money to see it. Like, right? Like, that's how the ideal movie situation making process works, right? And we have not been seeing that. We have not been seeing people play fair on either side, right? And I know it's really easy to take pot shots at the bigger guy in this argument, the corporation making the movie, because they've got all the money, they've got all the power to start off with. Why should it be on audiences to put up with their bullshit? You're right. It is. It shouldn't be. But at the same time, we have kind of become this own, like, angry mob, and that's also not good, right? Like, and so, you know, maybe it's a matter of we need to start seeing more. You know, and this is where the real crux of the whole problem comes from, is we need smaller studios to be trying to finesse these kinds of things so that the big studios can just keep making the dumb ones that we don't necessarily want to see, right? Let Disney make the billion-dollar movie, but where is, like, the good, like, $75 million film that pulls in 80 million and just barely makes it, that is about a superhero, right? We had those for a while, but they just don't make movies like that right now because they can't make movies like that right now. And that's the real bummer, is like, we're all so focused on these big companies making these types of films and how they're not working for us. But that's because part of the problem, at least, or a large part of the problem for somebody like me and my family and friends that prefer to see, like, smaller things taking bigger risks and stuff. And that just can't happen in the current environment.
No.
So, like, it sucks because I just don't know if we're going to be able to get over any of this until we can start to get some of those, like, mid-tier films back.
And I don't, honestly, the way that movie theaters are going right now, I mean, like, Harold and the Purple Crayon and Borderlands, those would have been mid-tier movies before.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, they get swallowed up in the blockbuster of the week.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, it's just like, did you see all the nonsense that happened with Miami Vice this week?
No, what happened with Miami Vice? Like the Jamie Foxx, Colin Farrell remake?
Yeah,
movie?
the remake, Michael Mann, Miami Vice. Some guy on Twitter announced that he was showing did that thing that we should never fucking do, and he let out a little piece of personal information into the world, and somebody got on his ass about it. But he announced that he was excited because he was going to be showing what?
Well, if you're not supposed to let out a little bit of your personal life without fear of ridicule, like, should we even be doing this? I can't. Yeah. I'm sorry. Continue.
But, like, he announced that he was showing his partner, like, his favorite movie, and it was Miami Vice, right? This Michael Mann 2006 movie, 2004
2005 or 2006.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it, so my guess is it's 2005.
It's a fine film. Michael Mann has a
I mean,
really
he's Michael Mann. That's what he
cool
does.
like crime fighter, both sides
Yeah.
kind of going gray like style to him that I really appreciate. And I love like some good Michael Mann movies. This isn't necessarily one of my favorites. I also don't dislike it though, right? So some guy on Twitter has the gall to be like, "Oh, my favorite movie, Miami Vice. I'm going to show it to my partner," and somebody calls him out and starts like turning it into some like whole argument about are the straights okay type conversation, which I just fucking is a whole kettle of fish, not least of which because it turns out that the guy is bi and like his partner may or may not actually be like of the opposite sex. Like so the like turning it into that was already like a stupid move on this person's part.
We've
I
been
heard,
Crockett and
but
Tubbs
then
role
add to
playing,
that
and
the
they
fact
wanted
that
them to understand
yeah,
why.
but it snowballed, right? It became this huge thing of people getting on Twitter and defending the movie and people talking about how like we've been trying to get into the Criterion collection for the last like 10 years and all this stuff to the point where the IFC Theater in New York started doing special screenings of Michael Mann's Miami Vice to be like to celebrate this movie in its moment of ridicule. Like we are going to show this film. Like it got so huge and snowballed so quickly. A film that I consider to be pretty middling, and I don't think many people would disagree. Like it didn't do gangbusters critically when it came out. It was not a huge successful film. There's a reason we don't have a Miami Vice 2, right? Like it is not a successful film by any true metric, right? But at this point, we are now 15 years out from it, right? Almost maybe 20 years out from it, depending. And like people have a place in their heart for it, despite the fact that it didn't do well right now and didn't do and people can point out flaws in it, right? We aren't letting movies like that get made anymore. And that is definitely a problem on the maker side because all they're caring about is getting the money made. But what else are they supposed to fucking care about? They can't just make movies on fucking sunshine and rainbows, right?
I
So
mean,
like
there's a
there needs
reason
to
why there's a structure. There's a reason that there
yeah
are producers. They're there to care about the money, right?
yeah.
And then you have the director who's there to care about the art, right?
So then what is the responsibility though of the audience? At what point is the line too far of just like, no, I'm not doing this, right? Because like
Not
at
doing
some
what?
point we crossed it. Not going to these movies. Like I'm just not going to spend the money or the time on this movie. I'll wait until streaming, right? Like I think streaming is the line that got crossed. Is I'll wait for it to come to my own home. I'll wait for the convenience of me watching it on the couch. And I think that's really what kind of became the first nail in the coffin to this whole fucking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Argyle. I enjoyed the film Argyle. But this weekend, August 9th, The Instigators came out, also an Apple movie, and it came direct to streaming. And between the two films, I think The Instigators should have gone to theaters. I like that's where my head was at, right? Is that the
Argyle did go to theaters, right?
Argyle did go to theaters, right? So if we're gonna look at Apple, and I liked Argyle, I'm not gonna lie about how I felt about the film Argyle, but that one got to go to theaters. The Instigators did not, and I don't know how Apple determines that. I don't know how Matt Damon, the past 2 years, has had films that like should have succeeded in theaters and didn't. Air should have succeeded in theaters, and it flat out barely got the chance to because of the Super Mario Brothers movie. And Instigators, which is Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, set in Boston, Massachusetts, doesn't even get the chance.
Teaming up with the old Bourne director, right? Isn't that part of the whole
it's
deal?
Doug Liman, yeah. So
yeah,
and it was great. It was excellent. First, before I go any further, Miami Vice was 2006. I did look it up, so let's at least say it. It's just weird. It's weird that like that film didn't get to go to theaters, and Argyle did. Like that's just how I feel in a weird way. And also like poor Doug Liman with the fact that Roadhouse and The Instigators, right? We never talked about Roadhouse. We'll talk about it eventually, but like both of them had, I think, more merit than some of these other films that go to theaters and like don't do anything.
Yeah.
It's just the decision on what does or does not wind up going to the movie theater now because of streaming is, I mean, one of those things that's killing that mid-tier offering that you talked about. And then, like, to go a step further than that, because that's what you can see on streaming, like, why would anyone even bother going to the movie theaters when eventually it's going to come to home, right? And then all of this, like, a lot of my anger from this comes from the fact that Disney Plus is raising its price again for the 4th time in 2 years. It's going to be $20 for ad-free Disney Plus. And why? What am I getting from them?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting the extra stuff that I get from the other things that cost less money. I don't.
Yeah, and like with Disney, we've talked about this before, but the whole promise of like the back catalog, it just falling flat.
Yes.
And like them like rotating stuff as opposed to just having it all available, and certain things never being available, and all that sort of stuff is just such a bummer.
Yeah. Like, what am I giving you more money for, Disney? You're not making enough money on the films, right? You have a film in theaters that's probably going to cross the $1 billion mark, has become the most profitable R-rated film, surpassing The Passion of the Christ, which released 21 fucking years ago. And then you're like, oh, but we need more money from you to keep Disney Plus rolling. Do you?
Well, this is also on the heels of a $1 billion film in Inside Out too, right?
Right, exactly. Right? So it's not just like, all I see is profitability for you, and then you're like, yeah, but we got to raise the price $5 more on this product that has never been what we promised the product would be. Well,
and so like the real thing comes down to, I know that it sounded like I was getting real victim blamey with like the audiences need to behave themselves I do feel that there is a subsect of the way in which we take in that shit that we need to get a fucking handle on, because otherwise we don't have a good leg to stand on to make these kinds of arguments. But the real bitch of it comes down to that we looked at movies for years. We have talked about this before. Like we talk about, I think even Black Adam kind of falls into this as far as like recent in this regard. Movies that are considered these like not successful, despite the fact that they make a couple of $1 million more than supposed budgets, right? And there's conversations to be had about Hollywood budgeting and whether or not the budgets we see are accurate. And so like maybe Black Adam making so much money, it really is this bigger failure than we realize in that regard, right? But like the truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, there were films that were making more money than they supposedly cost to make, and it just wasn't enough. It wasn't that those movies weren't successful. It's just that they weren't successful enough. So they weren't the #1 movie at the box office for 3 weeks in a row. They could only maintain it for one. They still made money. And we talk about them like they're these huge financial failures. And like I talk about this all the time with I was just talking about this with we saw the Mufasa trailer when we went to go see Deadpool Wolverine. And somebody that I was with was just like, this actually looks really entertaining. I didn't really care for the live action Lion King. As far as I was aware, nobody did. And I was like, funny enough, is actually one of the most profitable live action remakes that they've made out of the bunch of them. Like, it made a fuck ton of money, so of course they're going to do a prequel to it. But, like, we don't think about that as successful because, like, we just know the kind of public opinion on it now.
Is that nobody
but what we don't know,
yeah.
What we aren't thinking about is that Disney doesn't give a shit what the public opinion is one way or the other. All they care about is the money side of things, and it made more than enough money for them to put this movie out. And when this one doesn't make any money, they won't make another. That's just what's going to happen. But like Disney just looks at a very big number, and if that number doesn't keep getting bigger, then they don't consider it a success. And that sucks because it means that a movie could be generally successful, but we don't talk about it that way, and they don't see it that way. So the movie's just screwed, even though it may actually make more than enough money to justify itself.
Yeah. You're right. It's, I don't freaking know. I mean, this idea that, like, we have to be continually profitable when you're already making billions of dollars in profit, like, aren't you? Like, I guess that the number, like, doesn't, I mean, with the stock market crash that, like, happened earlier this week, like, we need to reassess success in this country, in the world, in a lot of ways. I mean, the last thing that I wanted to say on the movie thing is that every movie is somebody's favorite movie. Like, that's just the fact, right?
Yeah.
Like, you and I love Howard the Duck. Nobody expected Howard the Duck to be a movie that people love, right? If D23 has been going around that they announced Howard the Duck 2, as it always does with D23, if that were true, Siegen and I would be the first people in line to see that movie. Siegen and I would dedicate ourselves to trying to go to the premiere of Howard the Duck 2. However, we would have to do that. And I don't know. Like, I just, like, even the movie that you hate the most, there's somebody out there that finds enjoyment in it. And not just enjoyment, but probably loves that movie, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the thing that we are learning more and more, right? When we have huge collector's editions for the Super Mario Brothers movie from 1993, right? That are selling out, only being created by an Australian company. And it's selling out because there are people who have affinity for that movie. I mean, you could go listen to us have affinity for that movie last March's episode. A very special episode where we celebrated the 30th anniversary of it. Like like every movie has fans, and I understand that fans don't necessarily relate to profit, but it's just such a weird thing to, like, I don't know. Like, just looking at the amount of money a movie makes in its opening weekend can no longer be the metric.
Yeah.
And in streaming terms, it kind of isn't. So how do we, I don't know. I just don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Siegen? Because I'd like to just relate some of my time with Final Fantasy VI.
Let's finish up a little bit of video game talk before we go.
Yeah. So I said last Sunday I would start Final Fantasy VI. I did not end up starting it until this past Friday. I'm a bad person. I understand that. I have been doing some other things game-wise, just wrapping up. I finally tried, like, my weird hitbox with Nintendo World Championship, and I cut 6 whole seconds off of one of my clear times for it, and I'm just like, okay, so this is a little bit like cheating, right? Because the biggest complaint about Nintendo World Championship is that it is too finicky with the up inputs on the D-pads on any of the standard Nintendo Switch controllers. Even the NES controllers, like, you play and it sometimes reads an up input, and that will just kill your momentum. So the next iteration of video game systems should have, like, mechanical switches for all of the inputs. That's the end of my statement. Like, we have the technology, let's put it in there. Even if it's an option as a secondary controller that you purchase, right? Switch 2 has a Pro controller, and that one has, like, mechanical buttons for the D-pad so that you're not accidentally getting an up input when you're going right. You have to pay extra for that, and I get that. Some people don't need it, but, like, if you're going to be a Pro controller, let's give us Hall effect sticks and freaking mechanical switches in all of the face buttons. That's the end of it. Back to Final Fantasy VI. So I started it up, and I had hoped by the time we were recording to be done with the part of the game where you break into 3 scenarios. I have Locke's scenario left. I completed the Terran, Banna, Edgar one and the Sabin one this morning. So I just have Locke's, and I did it that way because Locke's is my favorite. I love the introduction of Celeste. I love that whole storyline. But here's the thing about Final Fantasy VI, and I don't know if it's because I've played this part of the game before. Final Fantasy VI kind of doesn't give a shit going in terms of, like, Deadpool and Wolverine, where, like, at one point you see a friggin' castle get, friggin' genocided by the enemy poisoning their water supply. And then a few scenes later, oh, we're in the woods and there's a train, and oh my god, it's a train to the underworld. Like, it's one of those games that, like, has no rhyme or reason. Like, I know where I'm supposed to go, but I don't know the reasoning behind where I'm supposed to go. Mm-hmm. Like, if I were playing as a kid, and I did play as a kid, I got as far as the break into 3, and I did Sabin scenario first. Sabin scenario first. And then I had to return the game, so I never got to do Bannon or Terra's or Locke's. And then I owned the game, and I got as far as I did. Like, the game is just throwing stuff at the wall. And honestly, I kind of miss that in, like, Squaresoft style RPGs. Like, very much Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger are competing with like Link to the Past and the idea that there's a light world and a dark world. Right?
Right.
Like
Right.
Chrono Trigger, it's because of time travel, where like the world is better or worse wherever you are. And then like Final Fantasy VI, like you start in the world of balance, and then it becomes the world of ruin, and then you go back to places, and you know items are stronger if you didn't pick them up, and this whole thing of there being a light world and a dark world, like it's this weird thing that they were following. Like chasing and trying to put into their narrative, but then they were also basing so much of it in like, we can just do whatever the fuck we want, right? Because people just want to play video games, right?
Yeah,
Like
that age of discovery, right,
Yeah.
is seems to be kind of waning in a lot of different types of media right now, and that's a bit of a bummer.
yeah, because I love how not hand-holdy Final Fantasy VI is, and again, I'm only like 2 hours into my playthrough of it, right? And that's from where I'm standing. But like as a kid, this would have been 10 hours of play because I would have been exploring, I would have been talking to people, looking for those breadcrumbs to follow. And I don't know. Like I'm excited to keep playing it. I know I'm gonna get this one through to the end. Because the other thing is that like the pixel remaster of it all, it's gorgeous, but there's also some beautiful like quality of life stuff. I have not shut off encounters, but if I have to, I can shut off the encounters. Like, I'm interested in that. I am auto-battling a lot, and I don't feel bad about that because I set what I want everybody to do, and then I turn on auto-battle, and then it just does what you did, which makes, like, Sabin's blitzes really easy. You do a hard blitz, and then it's like... It's kind of like having Go-Go the Mimic from the beginning in the game.
Well, I mean, it kind of, funny enough, feeds into the ways that, like, I feel about the fighting in the new Final Fantasy VII remakes that they've been doing, where, like, you can do a lot of just menu management to set up your team to just kind of do some attacking, and then you do end up having to still control at least one person at a time, but, like, generally, you can let your team go. You know, Kingdom Hearts also really embraces that kind of... This is not, like, a new style of menuing at all for these kinds of games. In fact, like, 6 might be where we can start talking about some early origins of that stuff, right? But, like... I don't see any shame in that. That's such a big part of all of these types of games now. That seems like the way. I mean, that's the ideal, right? Is that you tinker with the system enough that you know how to get it doing what you need it to do, and then hopefully at some point a curveball is thrown your way, so you have to figure something new out. But like, because you don't want the game to just play itself for the rest of the rest
exactly.
Of the
I mean,
it.
I still have to set up what I want to do, like for boss fights. Right? I got to Ultros in the river raft section, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to auto here because I want to make sure that Terra is using a fire attack. Now I'm going to have Bannon start praying rather than attacking. I'm going to switch up the blitz that I use because water people cannot be suplexed. You can suplex a train, but you can't suplex a fish. And I'm going to have Edgar using his tools, right, as opposed to just attacking. So I had to do that, but then once I had it set, I'm like, now I can just autoplay. But I had to like think about the fight. And most boss fights, that's what I do. Like I don't want to auto fight the boss fights because I need to set up for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's been fun. But that's it. So I'm still into Final Fantasy VI at all. I certainly hope to have it done tentatively before August 29th. I would like to have Final Fantasy VI done. But that's because that's when Vampire Survivors comes out for PlayStation 5. I don't know if PlayStation 4 is included in that. I just know that the PlayStation release of Vampire Survivors is August 29th. And I fully intend to, as soon as it's available, start playing it and then go until I get the Platinum Trophy. So that's the thing to look forward to. More information coming forward. But I need to finish Final Fantasy VI before I'm allowed to do that. I've also been engaging in a bit of a anthropological experiment. But the outcome of that experiment will be next Saturday, the 17th of August. So look forward to the results in the next episode of the Save Report. I've been doing something pretty fucking insane, Siegen. Nicest way to put it.
Has it been talking to Claptrap for 6 months?
No,
Because
it's not
that
talking
has
to
driven me
Claptrap
kind
for
of
6
insane.
months. Nobody else has done that. You
Nope.
stand alone. You are the cheese in this scenario. Oh, that's the problem. My Gundam's leg is stuck in my Black Panther Everett Ross leg. Sorry. The studio
Sounds like a
fell
personal problem that we might need to go get figured out.
Yeah, on Wednesday, the studio fell apart because I was trying to like put stuff together, and I'm still finding little nuances from that. So I didn't need to talk about it on the show. I could have saved it, but life happens, right? And life finds a way. Anything else from you, Siegen, before we send this one out?
No, YouTube is literally like auto playing videos because I've let them sit pause for too long.
Wow, that's crazy. All right. So Deadpool Wolverine, go see it. I don't think we've spoiled some of the characters, but not really the story. I think I definitely would give it higher than a 4, probably a 7. I think the story is important, but you do need to understand, as Siegen said, that's because this is a final coda for all of the films that came beforehand. And I would like to pause and thank Siegen for making me do X2 as a very special episode last year so that I could appreciate Pyro coming back.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's
You're welcome.
No, well, yeah, thank you. You're a good friend. Anything else, Siege? Or ready for the outro?
No, let's take this one.
All right, excellent. So thank you for joining us for the Say Report. New episodes released every Monday. If you want to hear us more hyper-focused, we just released our latest episode of the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe podcast, where we covered Grown Ups, which I'm still a little bit shaken from our discussion and rewatch of Grown Ups. So that's out there if you're looking for more Devin and Siegen. If you want to engage in the conversation, we have a Discord. The easiest way to get an invite is to find us on Facebook or X, formerly Twitter, where there's an invite to join us in the Discord, and then you can join in on the conversation that happens each week. Siegen, just as an example, shared that everybody could get Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remake at a pretty deep discount this week because everyone is always listening. Thank you, Steam, for helping fund whatever it is we do here at the Say Report. But if you're afraid of Discord and you just want to communicate with us one-on-one, easiest way to do that is to send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com. And if you want to speak to just myself or Siegen, make sure you put our names in the subject line, and our intern will make sure that it gets to the right person, and the other person doesn't even need to be involved, right? I know that a bunch of people are sending Siegen emails, and I'm so curious what they say, but I will never know. Because that's just how life goes. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining us as we talked about Deadpool Wolverine, Marvel, and pretty much the entire state of comic book movies. We'll see you next week for more topics in the grand scheme of everything. But right now, William, please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Siegen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.